As I placed the envelopes I had taken from the mailbox on the table that day, I noticed something strange. One of them was from a company I didn't recognize, Genosis. The envelope was addressed to my 10-year-old son Jimmy. With a strange feeling inside, I took the envelope and went to the backyard where Jimmy was. "Jimmy, do you recognize this?" I asked. He ran over to me, sweaty and smiling. The moment he saw the envelope, it seemed like he remembered something. "Oh yes," he said, "it's the gag test from Mike's birthday party." "A gag test?" "Yes, it was a test to find out our ancestry. Mrs. Parker gave it to all of us. We spit into little tubes, and she sent them off." As I glanced over the DNA test results, a deep sense of doubt arose within me. Jimmy's ancestry was very different from what I knew. Irish, English, Scottish, those were fine. But Spanish, North African, and Middle Eastern origin? How could this be? Jimmy, thinking it was just a game, didn't care much and went back to playing soccer. But I stayed there, trying to figure out what these results meant. The results must have been wrong. But the doubt growing inside me was getting stronger with each passing second. The thought that the woman I had trusted for years and built a life with might have cheated on me slowly started to take over my mind. Was Jimmy really my son? I called Mrs. Parker to question the accuracy of the test. The results were correct. The name on that envelope really belonged to Jimmy. Upon this, I decided to call Sarah's sister Lisa to suppress the doubt growing inside me. I wanted to start with a simple conversation, but as my questions went deeper, Lisa's tone changed. "Are you asking about Frank?" she said, and for a moment, my world stopped. Frank, Sarah's sister's ex-husband. He was once the black sheep of our family. When I heard that Frank had Spanish ancestry, a deep void formed within me. This explained the test. Frank had once been a part of Sarah's life. What if he still was? After hanging up the phone, I was in shock. Frank. I had always hated that name. The pain he caused Lisa, his constant cheating, the way he tore the family apart. Frank had always been the problem member of the family. But now my thoughts about him had completely changed because it wasn't about Lisa anymore. Now it was about me, my family, Sarah, and Jimmy. Suddenly, everything started to make sense. Jimmy's skin color, his resemblance to Frank. The thought that my son had inherited his Spanish roots from Frank deeply wounded me. Was Jimmy really my son? As I wandered through the house, I was startled when Sarah returned from shopping. The sound of her voice made me realize how tense my body was. She greeted me cheerfully, trying to act like it was just an ordinary day, but I couldn't return her warm smile. Inside, a storm was brewing, and that storm was about to destroy the person I loved most. "Is everything okay, Mike?" Sarah asked, her eyes filled with concern. I nodded without saying a word, but the anger, doubt, hurt, and fear building inside me could no longer be contained. The next morning when I woke up, I knew I couldn't hold it in any longer. I had to ask Sarah the truth. During breakfast, I finally mustered the courage and turned to her, asking, "Did something happen with Frank?" As those words left my mouth, Sarah hesitated for a moment. The innocence in her eyes disappeared in an instant. Her eyes filled with tears, and her hands began to tremble slightly. "Mike, I didn't want to tell you this, but I owe you the truth," she said, her voice trembling. "Frank, yes, there was something once, years ago. Early in our marriage, when you were away on business trips, I made a mistake. Things were complicated back then, our marriage was difficult, but it was a mistake. I loved our son, Jimmy, and didn't want to lose you, so I kept the secret." At that moment, it felt as if the world had collapsed on top of me. The woman I had loved for so many years had stabbed me in the back. The betrayal wasn't just in the past, its consequence was staring me in the face every day. Jimmy. Sarah looked at me through her tears. "I was so afraid of losing you," she said, "but I love you, Mike. I always have. And Jimmy is your son, even if not biologically. He's the most important person in your life." I went to Jimmy's room and watched him sleep. He was my son, no matter what the DNA said. But Sarah, how could I trust her now? Was our marriage, our love, all just a lie? Sarah's tearful confession not only fueled my anger but also made me feel as if I were witnessing the destruction of the life I had spent years building. I had always approached my son Jimmy as a father. I had taken him to soccer practice, felt proud of him, and stood by him through every challenge. But now, the truth was casting a dark shadow over all those memories. As Sarah's confession continued, I realized just how much she had hidden. She hadn't trusted me, keeping this secret for years. Did I want to forgive her? A part of me was saying yes. I wanted to protect my family, to continue loving Jimmy as I always had. But another part of me was consumed by the thought that everything had been a lie. All day at work, my mind was occupied with these questions. The meetings, the work being done, none of it seemed to matter. That evening, when I returned home, I could feel Sarah's eyes following me. I walked into the house without knowing what to say or do. Jimmy and Susie were running around the house. In that moment, I realized that my love for my children wouldn't change because of a DNA test. Jimmy might not be biologically mine, but he would always be my son. But my trust in Sarah, and that was a different matter. "We need to talk," I said to Sarah heavily and quietly. Her eyes filled with tears, but her expression was a mixture of guilt and regret. We both sat down and I took a deep breath. There was nowhere left to run. We had to face everything. "I want to stay with you," I said finally, "but there are conditions." Sarah relaxed slightly upon hearing this, but immediately started crying again. "I'll do anything," she said, her voice trembling. "Just let's save us, Mike. I'll do whatever it takes. First, I want you to tell me everything. No more secrets." In that moment, I saw both fear and relief in her eyes. She knew there was no point in continuing to hide the truth. So she told me everything. She explained how the relationship with Frank had started, how it ended, and how she had been forced to keep it a secret for years. But in the process, I learned something else. Sarah had told everything to Lisa as well. It was known that Frank had cheated on Lisa, but Lisa had also learned about Sarah's involvement with Frank. And for all those years, Lisa had kept this secret too. This shook me even more. Not only had my wife lied to me, but so had the person closest to her, Lisa. My trust had completely evaporated. Who could I trust now? That's why I gave Sarah my second condition. "We need to go to therapy together." At that moment, a glimmer of hope appeared in Sarah's eyes. "You want to save me?" she said with a faint smile. "No," I said seriously. "I'm doing this for our family. Not for us, but for Jimmy and Susie. They don't deserve this." In that moment, Sarah realized how much she had lost. She was fighting to keep everything she had, and I wanted to win that fight too. But what would be the outcome of this battle? I didn't know. From that week on, we started therapy. It was difficult at first, but week by week we made a little more progress. Sarah was doing everything she could to regain my love, but for me, rebuilding my trust in her would take time. One day, while playing soccer with Jimmy, I thought about everything related to him. He might have been Frank's son biologically, but he had grown up with me. I had raised him, and I had been his father. He had called me Dad. He had trusted me. Could a DNA test change that truth? No. Jimmy was my son. He was beyond a biological connection. I would always love him. Jimmy kicked the ball toward me and shouted, "Come on, Dad, take a shot." At that moment, I held back the tears that had welled up in my eyes and smiled back at him, saying, "Okay, son." The complicated emotions inside me slowly gave way to a decision. Trusting Sarah again would be difficult, but I wanted to rebuild my family. Jimmy and Susie were my children, and their happiness came before everything else. Over time, our relationship was reshaped. Returning to the old days was impossible, but we were trying to make a fresh start. Our family weathered the storm. Every wound eventually formed a scar. The pain of betrayal would always remain somewhere in my heart, but the presence of Jimmy and Susie was the greatest healing balm for that wound. In the end, I realized that what held our family together wasn't just blood ties. What kept us together were the memories we had created together over the years, the bonds we had formed, and the love we shared. Over time, my trust in Sarah was rebuilt, but this process took years. No matter what, in the end, the winners of this battle were our children.